What is up, plant people? It's time once more for the Planthropology Podcast, the show where we dive into the lives and careers of some very cool plant people to figure out why they do what they do and what keeps them coming back for more. I'm Vikram Baliga, your host and your humble guide in this journey through the green sciences. And as always, my friends, I'm so excited to be with you today. Hey, quick intro today because today's episode is a little bit different. I've mentioned over the past couple of episodes that I've been working on another project for working on it for work. Anyway, as part of my role as the Assistant Dean for Outreach and Engagement in the Davis College of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources here at Texas Tech University, we've launched a new podcast where we interview researchers, educators, and even students in our college and talk to them a little bit similarly to what I do on Planthropology, but maybe a little more structured than just, hey, whatever pops into my head, I say to people about what they do. And we try to drill down into the research they're doing, the cutting edge innovations they're making, and really just the focus of their work here at the university and what that means from a impact standpoint on our society, on agriculture, and on people in general. So today's episode that I'm actually going to share with you was with a former student named Lance Nicholas, who just graduated and I believe is actually starting his master's degree very soon, maybe in the fall. And his research was fascinating. So he did work as an undergraduate researcher, worked in ag education, and surveyed school administrators and all kinds of things about the resources they need and what lets them be successful. So it was really a great interview. Lance is, as they say, a natural, really just a home run of a podcast interview. So I would love for you to go listen to the Deep Roots podcast. Go subscribe while you're listening to this. You can find it anywhere as Deep Roots. You may have to search Deep Roots Davis College. It's linked in the thing where the links live at the bottom of this episode. So go subscribe to that. We've got some really great interviews coming up. Actually, my boss, our dean, is the episode that came out yesterday if you're listening to this episode as it launches. So go listen to that as well. And that would just mean a lot to me. So I'm going to stop talking and let's hear this episode of Deep Roots with our former student, Lance Nicholas. Hi, and welcome back to the Deep Roots Podcast, a production of the Texas Tech Davis College of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources, where we explore the fascinating research, teaching, and innovation of our faculty, staff, and students. On today's episode, I sat down with Lance Nicholas, a recent graduate of the Department of Agricultural Communications and Education. Lance was incredibly involved in his time here in Texas Tech, doing everything from collegiate FFA to mentoring students through TTU student engagement. He is a well-accomplished undergraduate researcher and just a really great person to talk to. Lance will be starting his master's degree soon, and we wish him all the best in his future. I don't want to spoil it too much because this is such a fascinating interview about the undergraduate research he did, about his time here at Texas Tech, about the work he did with schools in our region, and how that's going to inform his future and how he hopes to help future schools and administrators be better at what they do and serve students and our community more effectively. So get ready for such a great conversation. It's so exciting to get to actually talk to someone who was a student at the time and is a recent graduate for a very different perspective on education and what we do here in the Davis College. So thanks for being here today. I know you're going to love this conversation as much as I did. And as always, let us know if you have any comments, thoughts, suggestions, if you'd like to know more about anything we've talked about, and enjoy today's show.
All right. Well, Lance, thanks so much for coming in and being on Deep Roots today. And we're really excited to talk to you to get a student perspective on research in the Davis College and what you do here. So thanks for giving us your time. And just to start off, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do in the Davis College? What are you studying? And what other activities do you take part in?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Lance Nicholas. I'm from Berkshire, Texas. If you don't know where that is, it's just west of Houston on the other side of Katy, a little tiny little town. But I am an agricultural education student right here at Texas Tech. I'm a senior. And so right now, since it's the spring semester, I've been student teaching. So today I actually drove in from Houston.
Oh, wow. Well, that's commitment. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it was a good drive, very smooth. But what I do with that is really work on developing myself as an educator. And so there's a lot of different resources that we offer, or that Texas Tech has given me to do that inside and outside of ag ed that I've been a part of. And so inside ag ed, I was very involved with collegiate FFA, now Agricultural Educators of Tomorrow. And I had the privilege of serving as president for that. And so with that, I got to host some community service projects, collaborate with my officer team for professional developments, and really broaden the horizon of what is agricultural education across the Davis College. And so we invited a lot of different departments into our organization. So it's been very fruitful for that. And so I've also done undergraduate research. I did 2 projects this past couple semesters, one for ag ed and one for ag com.
Okay.
And so that was really cool to kind of see both perspectives of the department. But outside of that, in Davis College, I was an agri-Texan. I was a recruiter for the longest time. I got to travel all as far as California to as far north as Indiana to tell people the greatness of Davis College. And I had a lot of fun getting to see all the corduroy jackets, kind of walking around with all the FFA jackets I went to as a future FFA advisor. So that was really awesome and fruitful to just interact with those students from different states to show them how great we have it here in Texas. But then outside of Davis College, I was very involved with student engagement.
Okay.
The Department of Student Engagement. And so the reason that is because when I first came here, I joined the Tech Leadership Institute. And so I actually became a peer mentor for that, and then eventually the lead peer mentor for that.
Wow.
And so I got to create curriculum and do a lot of facilitation and really kind of help kids find their purpose here and kind of take them a step further in their leadership journey to really understand what they wanted to do here, what they wanted to accomplish, but more importantly, help them understand themselves a little bit more, because that program is based off Know Thyself, quote by Socrates. And so we made sure that we were facilitating towards that goal of helping them do that. And so I was all over the place throughout my time here at Tech, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. I tried to stay busy, but I definitely take advantage of those moments I actually have to sit down and just relax.
Well, I don't know that there's much try there. I think you stayed pretty busy, man. I try to think of myself as an undergrad, and I'm pretty sure I got really good at Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And that was about it. So it's really impressive, and kudos to you for taking all that on, because it is a lot between class
absolutely.
and everything else you do.
Yeah.
So thinking about, you mentioned that you've done different undergraduate research projects. So one, can you talk about that? Talk about the work you did in both of your projects, but also maybe first, actually, what made you want to do that? What inspired you to get into doing that?
Yeah. So we had a PhD student. She actually did her dissertation today, Christy Kelly. She just pulled me aside after class one day. She was one of our TAs for one of my ag ed classes. And she said, "I have an opportunity for you." And I was like, do tell. And so we go down to Dr. Rayfield's office, and they tell me that there's an undergraduate research scholar grant through Davis College. And so they kind of walk me through a little bit of what the application process looks like. But what really hooked me was what we were studying. And so one thing in education we know is the relationship between administrators and teachers. But in ag ed specifically, that's not something that's studied a whole lot. And so I come from a long line of educators. A lot of people in my family went into education, whether in special education, gen ed, anything like that. But I'm the first agricultural educator. There's my subtle brag. But really what kind of hooked me and got me into that was them like pouring into me and being like, "We think that you would have a lot of fun doing this."
Okay.
And so really by them doing that research or that outreach to me and giving me the opportunity to fill out the application myself, develop and summarize what we'd be studying and turning it in, that after I understood a little bit more of what we were doing, I was like, I'm 110% into this. And so that's what got me into it. But like I said, I did those 2 projects. The undergraduate research scholar grant that I got for Davis College was focused on the ag education perspective.
Okay.
And so what we did with that was, like I said, we interviewed different administrators from schools that are dealing with chronic teacher turnover of their ag teachers. And so what that meant is that they're losing 31% of their ag teachers for every year for 4 years straight. Wow. And so believe it or not, it was actually fairly easy to find people for that, which is disheartening to hear.
Sure.
But that kind of made me want to find the solution a little bit more and really help people push forward and being like, "Hey, here's what's been researched. Here's what we can try now." And so that whole process, doing the interviews, doing the analysis and everything was awesome because one, I love qualitative research. I
Sure.
think it's more fun to paint the picture, and I'm not very good at numbers. And so, but I love talking to people. And so that was always really fun. And so getting that paper written, we sent it off to a couple conferences. We had some success with it. But on the other side of that, with my ag comm research, completely different scale. And so that was on the Texas voucher law, the school choice law, and how they were talking about it in the news. It was more of a framing research project. And that one was really interesting. One, because it was quantitative. And so we had to take different numbers. And so Dr. Myers had to coach me a little bit through that because I got confused a little bit. But that one really taught us a little bit the representation of rural education at the Texas legislature. And so what we found from that was surprising to me. And it really kind of made for good discussion at the conference we took it to. But then when we wrote out the full paper, not only did I get to understand what those findings were, but I actually am excited to put it out there for other educators to read and understand, but also people outside of agriculture to read and understand how can we support our rural communities.
For centuries, the seed of the Mystrica fragrance tree, nutmeg, has been sought after by people all over the world for its perceived medicinal and magical powers. But why was this spice really so valuable? The answer may surprise you. This is the secret story of nutmeg.
For sure. And how cool to get to do something that will directly influence your future career.
Yeah.
Right? To do work to make your potentially life as an educator better.
Yeah.
And make you a better educator in general, knowing some of the things that you've learned through all this, which I think takes us into some of the impacts of your work. And you've discussed this a little bit already, but thinking at several levels on students, on professionals in the ag industry, and then just on the ag society in general.
Yeah.
What impacts do you see coming out of that work?
So with the ag ed paper, the biggest thing that I see coming from it is more proactive standpoints to addressing teacher retention and turnover.
Okay.
And so the reason I say that is, that is such a complex topic to where people are like, let's try this one thing and then we'll see if it works. And if it doesn't, we'll come back a couple years and reevaluate and try again. But the reason I think that one is so important is because one, it advocates for the administrators and the ag teachers to collaborate a little bit more and address issues within the school and in the department for them to kind of get on the same page. Throughout my student teaching, I've gotten to collaborate with different student teachers and different teachers and really understand their relationships with their admin. And it's such a diverse scale.
Sure.
And so that's what I always try to push with this research when people are asking me a little bit why I did it. It's to really kind of close that gap between administration and teachers. And I think that goes far beyond ag teachers.
Sure.
Every teacher is important, whether CTE, fine arts, general education. I think that this paper is going to be a little bit eye-opening for some people and saying, am I really showing up for my teachers, or are teachers really showing up for their admin the way they need to? And so I think that it advocates for discussion and a lot of collaboration, which I think is something that's not as talked about in education anymore. Everything is so procedural now. You basically fill out your complaint form and move on with your day.
Sure.
We need more face-to-face conversations. And I think that that research is going to lead towards that.
That's awesome. And, especially in this field that is very personal in a lot of ways. Education's personal, or it should be, I think, in my opinion. Something that's relational and relation building and those kinds of things. Yeah. But agriculture, we rely so heavily on each other in all of our pursuits that the ability from an administrative standpoint, but also the educator frontline standpoint, there needs to be mutual understanding. There needs to be clear communication. And that's great. That's something that you get to look into. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think another important note with that is the importance between communication and understanding the admin to the teacher thing is so important to me. I've seen it, and like I said, my whole family has been educators. And so just hearing from their experiences of that as well, it fills me with gratitude a little bit to know that I can motivate teachers to step out of that comfort zone to go ahead and do that. But we all have the ability to be an agricultural educator in some regard, in some aspect. And so I think that can also be translated beyond the academic standpoint but also even to the agricultural industry and helping people understand how can we not only retain our ag teachers, which we need, how can we retain our employees or our managers and everything like that. And so obviously I have really high hopes for this paper, but I think that it's a good conversation starter for sure for all of these different people.
It is. And that's such an important piece of the puzzle too, is starting the research, starting the work, and giving future work something to build off of.
Absolutely.
As well. So you mentioned you didn't have too much trouble finding, or at least finding schools that fit your criteria, finding programs that fit into that turnover rate and some of the stuff that you worked with.
Yeah.
But working with collaborators sometimes can be very challenging. There's a lot to that. Can you talk a little bit about the process and the experience of actually, as someone who's student teaching now, who's seen it through your family, what was that process of actually working with the folks that are, again, on the front lines of ag education? Was that, I hope that it was a positive collaboration, a positive experience, but I'd like to hear from you a little bit about what that experience was like for you.
Yeah. So every administrator that I had the opportunity to interview was very excited to be a part of the research. And so that made the entire process so much easier because they made it clear to me that they want to fix their retention strategies and they want to find out how to keep their educators. And so really the whole process with that has been very easy, and they were very open about everything. And, of course I gave them the opportunity to say, if you don't want to answer any of these questions, you don't have to, don't feel obliged to do so. But they answered every single question, and they gave me, that was supposed to be a 30-minute interview. Some of them were like almost an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
And so they had a lot of different things to say and do. And, that's what I needed. I wanted to be able to put all these pieces together to paint that picture for people and find those results and everything like that. But, the challenging part with finding collaborators, though, was the tone of which I was trying to locate them.
Yeah.
And so I actually had some trouble there because some of those administrators don't want to admit that they have this issue. And so I felt like I had to word myself enough to be like, I promise I'm not insulting you. I swear. You were just a suggestion. I don't know if you meet the definition, but I had some that responded very positively and I had some that responded very negatively.
Sure.
And so finding those collaborators, while easy to locate, and the ones that met the definition, they were definitely a part of it. But if I accidentally found somebody that wasn't meeting the definition, they were not too happy with me. And I
can see that. I can see that being a challenge because, even though you're not going in saying this is a problem and it's a you problem, that kind of thing, it is a sensitive subject.
Absolutely.
It is a tough topic to discuss. So I can see that being a roadblock in some ways for sure.
Yeah. And it has definitely made me rethink a little bit more of my styles of finding those interviewees. And as I started from my first phone call to my first email to my very last ones, it was like night and day, because by then I finally understood this is the tone I need to be talking to them in. I need to get to the point I need to get to the reason I'm calling by this point. I need to say these words. That way they correlate it with, I'm just curious. I'm not judging you.
Right. And
I think that once I established that this was a sense of curiosity and a sense of compassion and genuineness, they were a little bit more open to the idea of being like, hey, I don't meet this definition, or yes, I'm very excited to be a part of this. Please let me know what I need to do.
Yeah.
And so that growth experience with that, I think, is something very important that you have to realize, because this isn't the only research project that I'm doing. I hope to do more studies that are like this, where I get to meet with people.
Yeah.
And so really this is just helping me develop my toolbox. And I'm glad that I had these challenges that I had, because now I have those reflective moments and can actually become the better researcher as I go forward with it.
And great. Again, at your stage of your career, what a great opportunity to get to be a part of undergraduate research, but also a very different kind of undergraduate research than probably we normally think about in the college, where there's a lot of undergraduate researchers that end up doing lab science or bench work or field work. And yours is, again, very qualitative, very people driven, and getting those experiences and those lessons now.
Yeah.
And having the opportunity to work through those challenges now will serve you really well. Mm-hmm. Now, I did see that you just got accepted to a master's program. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Very cool. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Which sort of works me into the next question of the future.
Yeah.
Right. What does that look like for you? You mentioned a little bit that you want to continue with studies like this, but Are there projects on the horizon and again, don't talk about anything you're not supposed to, but like, don't scoop yourself. But at the same time, what's coming up next that you're excited about? Where do you want to go from here?
Yeah. So yes, I just got into grad school here at Texas Tech, actually, in the Ag Ed program. So I will be on an assistantship under Dr. Will Doss. And so me and his research values very heavily align. And so mine specifically are obviously teacher retention and recruitment. I think if you're in agricultural education, you need to put at least a little bit of emphasis on it, because that's what we are. We're teachers, and we need to make sure that we're not only creating them, but keeping them.
Yeah.
And so, supervised agricultural experiences, those projects students do, that's always something that I'm very curious in understanding and everything like that. But really, I want to diversify my portfolio of that, and really taking those risks to find other research values and interests, because I think that is what drove me to go to grad school, was to just be curious about so many components of agricultural education. And that's what I think my future looks like. I think it's a very colorful future. I think that there's going to be all kinds of directions to go. And, I'm very lucky to have an assistantship under someone who's very supportive of that, and someone who is going to guide me through those moments. And so not only do I hope to mentor other students through that moment and actually maybe even advocate for undergrad research for them, but also be mentored by people who have been there and have been in the classroom and have now gotten their PhDs or have gotten their graduate degrees and everything like that. And so that's really what I think my future is filled with. It's filled with curiosity and mentorship. And because I think where I'm at right now, it's more important than ever to just be curious about all of these opportunities and all of these fields of study. Because, as a future teacher, I have to be ready for all of these different horizons. There's 6 pathways in agriculture, food, and natural resources. I have to be prepared to do it all. And so I think that really just being open to whatever opportunities are in front of me. And, that's even how I got involved here, just being open to the ideas of, I don't know what this looks like. I don't know how it's going to go, but you know what? It seems fun. Let's go ahead and give it a try, and we'll put what we have into it and everything and see what success comes from it. And even if there's not success from it, there's always a growth point from it. And so that's really what I look forward to in the future. It's scary because I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I think that fear is what makes it more exciting.
Absolutely. And I think, having been through a lot of school and done this for a while, it's sometimes only in retrospect that you can look back and see how those pieces fit together. And in my experience, as I've navigated my education and my career and everything else, it has been a benefit to me to give myself a lot of pieces, if that makes sense, right? To take a lot of opportunities. And sometimes it's hard to see what the right decision is. Right. And there's just the next one. And then you take the next one and you see where that leads. And then you look back in 10 years into your career and you say, oh, wow, it's really cool what I've built out of all those pieces I gave myself. Absolutely. So again, congrats to you on all the stuff you've already accomplished. Thank you. Getting into grad school and just all the stuff you're going to do. It's really cool.
Thank you.
So as we wrap up here, one of the traits, the marks of a good communicator and a good educator is to be able to, I think, encapsulate things and put complex ideas into bite-sized pieces and things that people can really grab onto. So to that end, we have a pretty diverse listening group to this. There's all kinds of people, that are from students to academics to the general public. What do you hope they take away from hearing from you talk today? What one thing or a couple of things do you think they should take away from this conversation?
The biggest thing I think that people should take away from this, and it's something I tell myself at least once a day at different points, is the famous Ted Lasso quote, "Be curious, not judgmental." And because everything that I built here at Texas Tech was based on curiosity. Everything is a what if, or how would I? And I think that's something that we all need to carry. And so if you're a student, my experiences were so diverse and open because I was curious about something and I asked a question, or I found interest in things that I didn't even know existed. And, a lot of that was built off of taking those risks of signing up for Tech Leadership Institute. I didn't know what that was. Or saying yes to undergraduate research. Didn't know what that was going to look like. But being curious about the different opportunities that are in front of you are what's going to open the doors for you, basically. Cool. And that's really what I've seen, because I wasn't going to go to grad school. But I got bit by the research bug or something, because I just want to keep doing it. And because it's just exciting to me. And I sound like a complete nerd sometimes when I talk about it, but it's my favorite thing now. And so for students, I think that is something that I hope they take away from this. But as for everybody else listening, I think that really just saying yes to those opportunities and letting fear not be the driver, but letting motivation just spark itself, because it will.
Yeah.
But we have to set fear aside to do that. And I think that there were so many moments at Texas Tech where I was afraid that I wasn't going to get something, or I was afraid that something just wasn't going to work out. But the second you put those aside as the second one, you start having gratitude for the moment. And I think that once we start showing gratitude for ourselves and our experiences, life just is so much better. And I know that can be a challenge, but if we push ourselves, find those mentors that'll help us build those foundations, man, the options are just limitless at that point. If you can just drive on your own motivations and drive on your own gratitude, you will be unstoppable compared to what other people are going to think that you're only capable of doing.
That's awesome. Great advice. So this is a question I normally throw at researchers of where can we find your work? And they throw us me a lab website or whatever. But if people want to know more about what you do, are there any public facing things you like to send them to? You want them to go look at your LinkedIn? Just like where can people find you?
So always on LinkedIn. That's where I post a lot of my research or academic updates. This year, at some point in 2026, I will have some published papers on the Journal of Agricultural Education. So my rural communities and education school choice paper will be in there. And then my administrator's perceptions paper will be in there as well. So if you're ever curious to read those papers, they will be in there this year for sure. But if anybody is looking to learn a little bit more about what I do or what I'm doing, LinkedIn is going to be the best point to do it. But I'm active on all social media platforms as well, Instagram, Facebook, and everything like that.
Cool. Well, Lance, again, thanks so much for your time and for making a very long drive to get here.
Yeah,
and
of course. Thank you.
Just for your perspective and getting to hear from your experience is really cool. So thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.